I had to think long and hard about this one, ladies, gentlemen. I had to think long and hard. It's simple for me. There's only one person you can blame, and you got to blame Kevin Durant. For this reason, KD, baby. You refer to yourself as a god, right? We got the tweets to prove it. Kevin Durant, you refer to yourself as a god, so let me address you as such. See, KD, in churches, we know that people say God either allows it or he causes it to happen. So what, KD, did you allow and cause to happen in Brooklyn? Well, the first thing that you allowed was Kyrie Irving to slander your coach on your podcast when he said y'all didn't need a coach. KD, you the God. So what did you allow to happen? You allowed James Harden to arrive in Brooklyn, then you allowed him to leave Brooklyn. KD, you the God, right? So what did you cause to happen? You caused Ben Simmons' arrival in Brooklyn because James Harden departed from Brooklyn. KD, you the God, right? So what did you cause to happen? You caused Steve Nash to get fired because you said it is either Steve Nash or it is you in Brooklyn. KD, you the God, right? Well, God either causes it or he allows it to happen. And right now, the Brooklyn Nets are in shambles because of the God. If you the God, you got to take ownership for the mess. That's what I heard in church. 2-5. Who you blaming for the Nets mess?
To back up KD real quick, you know, the culturally words, we say the God as in like the dude, not like he's a God.
Of course, play on words, figure of speech.
Right. Okay, real quick, you got to give it to Steve Nash. Can we keep it real, right? When he got the job, I was like, why Steve Nash? Like, what did he do to deserve this spotlight? What did he deserve this spot as the head coach of the Nets? Okay, they're 2-5, right? You have one of the best defensive players in the game, and Ben Simmons. Now, Ben can't shoot. I'm a 76er fan. I know he can't shoot. He don't want to shoot. I won't say he can't shoot. He don't want to shoot, but he plays great defense. He's 6'10", can dribble the ball, can push the pace. You got Kyrie Irving, one of the best offensive guards we've ever seen. And then you got the God, Kevin Durant. I won't say much about him. You already know that. So you have these skilled players, and we can't win. We 2-5. Last year, you got swept. They got swept. Same thing Dan Antonio did, right? That's the same thing he did. Swept. They had the same type of offense, the pick and roll game, right? The game is involved, bro. It's involved. I look at when they were with the Warriors. Kevin Durant was with the Warriors. He loved the offense, not because he had all them skilled players around him. They moved the ball. They were efficient. The stuff I see with the Nets, they don't want to play for him. They don't play for Steve Nash. It's time to roll. Listen, I'm glad he's gone. Who's the next coach you're thinking about getting?
Email Doka.
Hey, that's the next segment? Let's talk about that later.
That's a great tease. You're learning television. Joy, who do you blame for the Nets mess?
I also think that, Shady, if you want to change careers, WWE is for you.
For real?
Yeah,
I like the Rock.
I would love to see that.
If you smell Let me stop. My bad, Rock.
I have 3 pages of notes on this topic, on this hot mess that is the Brooklyn Nets, but it's pretty simple. I do a blame pie in situations like this. KD gets a healthy slice.
Healthy.
Because he's the star, along with the other stars in Kyrie and Harden and Ben Simmons. They get their slice of the pie. Then you have Steve Nash. And then you obviously have the front office and the ownership. The way to break down the Nets and what's gone on to me is pretty simple. Specifically with basketball, because we know how important adding a superstar can be to an organization and a team. It can be life-changing. It can change the course of the history of the city. I mean, LeBron brings billions into a city. It can change everything. But if you don't have the structure in place, it doesn't mean anything. It's just a lot of talent. We've seen this over and over and over again. Even with Miami and the Big Three, when they got together, right? And that was a structured situation. They were a championship-winning organization. They had pieces in place. Pat Riley, it was well run, well supported.
OG.
What happened? They got together, said not 1, not 2, not 3. I remember when they were saying that, and I was like, no, you haven't played together yet. And now it's going to be all this pressure. There was already pressure. And what happened? Not only made it to the finals, but they lost.
Yeah.
It's not that easy to win championships. And you know what makes it harder? 3 pages of notes of incidents that go on every week. This is like the White House. I mean, can we get a week off from the Brooklyn Nets? It's always something. Steve Nash was not qualified for this job. Because you are a great player doesn't necessarily make you a great coach. And when you're dealing with a drama-filled situation like the Brooklyn Nets, you need somebody who can walk in the room and put some rings on the table from coaching.
Right.
This is what I did in this position. So I appreciate where you're coming from. I respect you. But respectfully, you ain't on my level when it comes to what I'm telling you to do.
Yeah.
You're not. You have a championship. You have a championship with LeBron. KD, you can talk to me. Everyone else, it's not a conversation. And Steve Nash couldn't do that. That's not Steve Nash's fault. He didn't hire himself. So now we get to the front office. Brooklyn has absolutely no culture whatsoever. You flip-flop on Kyrie if he's going to play with the vaccination.
Right.
Okay? You flip-flop on whether you're going to keep Steve Nash as the coach, because KD wanted him out, and then he kept him, and now we're 7 games in, and now he's gone. You put out statements about what Kyrie has tweeted about, but Kyrie's still there. Now you're bringing in a new coach that is coming from a place where you just got let go. What is your culture? What is your purpose? What is your direction? And then you expect us, as the fans and the media and everyone else, to consider you to be championship contenders. Not with all this noise.
Yeah, I like that what you said about the coach. All the big stars, all the big teams, right? Even like back then with Magic, right? Yep. They had that documentary on the Magic. They didn't start rolling until they got the right coach. Sure. The Lakers with Shaq and Kobe. So you got the right coach where you can respect, bring a winner in there that we all can agree that, okay, he's the guy. And then the lastly is the Bulls, right? They were doing good, but they couldn't go off that hump because they need that coach. Phil Jackson came in there and gave it to him, so that matters, the respect part of the coach.
Dave, before I get you in here, here is why I don't give any blame to Steve Nash. Here's why I have a little bit of issue with what you all are saying. What coach could have come in there and laid down rings and things?
That's the point I was
If I think about it, Steve Kerr, the one that's been winning chips. Outside of Steve Kerr, Pop been winning chips. Outside of Pop, Ty Lue and whoever was coaching Bron been winning chips. Outside of that, you could have said, Doc, Eric Spoelstra, you know better than I do. He ain't leaving Miami not to go coach them.
None of those guys are leaving where they're at.
So what I'm saying is all of these coaches, whether Spoelstra, whether Kerr, whether Ty Lue, they were all assistant coaches that you thought, you know what, they coached under intelligent coaches. Yeah. They were promoted. Steve Kerr, coaching under an intelligent coach, he was promoted. Ty Lue, coaching under an intelligent coach, he was promoted. Steve Nash, coached under one of the most intelligent coaches in Steve Kerr, one of the winningest basketball associates in the history of the game, Steve Kerr, and he was promoted. I can't blame Steve Nash at all. Kevin Durant didn't want to play there. Kyrie Irving didn't want to come back. Kyrie Irving is currently arguing with the owner over what anti-Semitism means and does not mean. Ben Simmons does not want to shoot. James Harden wasn't in shape. Then he was in shape. Then Kevin Durant ran him off the team. I'm just looking at Steve Nash and saying, you know what, big dog? I am making you immune to this. But Dave Helman, you chime in, sir.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Like, honestly, you remember in school, like, you might have a substitute teacher and there was always a class or like a group of kids in the class where you're like, oh my God, they are going to eat this poor person alive. Mm-hmm. That's what I feel about the Brooklyn Nets. Like, Steve Nash was not qualified for this job, but how many people are qualified to deal with everything Emmanuel just listed? Like, it was last spring, it was spring 21 when KD was a shoe size away from beating the Bucks, right? Yeah. That's the last time I remember the Nets, like, being in the news because of, like, basketball. Everything else, it's just, can Kyrie play? Does KD want to be there? What, like, all the stuff with Kyrie over the last week with the anti-Semitism, like that, I mean, what coach outside, like, I'll give you Phil Jackson, Pop, Pat Riley, like, it's not a long list of people. Even Steve Kerr, like, obviously they've had to navigate their share of stuff. They've got great culture. Like, Steph Curry is a part of that. Klay Thompson is a part of that. I don't even know if I think Steve Kerr could navigate all of the nonsense that's going on there.
Mark Jackson.
Yeah.
Like Mark Jackson. He got that whole Warriors thing really rolling.
The point is that it's not a long list of people. And so, like, no, I don't know that Steve Nash was cut out for this, but that's not necessarily his fault.
It's not necessarily his fault, but he wasn't successful.
No.
And the expectations when you take that job with that talent is that you will be successful because they were there when he came there. The problem, again, I go back to, and what I said a few moments ago, is that they don't have a culture, and that's not changing. And certainly not with this new hire is it going to change either. This is what the Brooklyn Nets do. It's chaos. Here's a list, if you'd like it, of all the incidents that don't include this past week of Kyrie Irving. We don't have time to read it because we have things to do. Let's see. Here, I have another list here. Okay, this is the way that each of these seasons have ended. I can tell you I could create a documentary in the next 15 minutes on just 1 month of what's gone on with the Brooklyn Nets. But my issue is if this is how you want to run your organization, in total chaos and news and drama and all that, that's fine. It doesn't matter how much talent you have, because at the end of the day, you've got the Milwaukee Bucks sitting back, chilling, just good as hell, with one of the best, if not the best, basketball players in the world on any given night, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Okay? You have organizations around the league who are playing at the highest level who we don't hear nothing about.
Let me stop
and
down.
They prefer it that way.
Let me stop down and ask you something, Joy, before we have to get out of here. So I started off by saying it's on KD. Right, that was my whole premise. Yeah. You have now ended what appears to be the end of this conversation, bringing up Giannis. I think that players can help formulate a culture. Coach Bud, as we know over there in Milwaukee, we saw what happened, but it was really Giannis saying, look, I'm staying put. Yeah. I ain't going nowhere. I'm going to be in Milwaukee. Giannis dictated the tempo. I'm all work. I'm not really any play. That is why I think I'm giving – that's not why I think. That's why I am giving it all to KD. Where do you stand, especially given your last statement in regards to Giannis on like, yo, isn't it the big dog? Isn't it Kevin Durant? Isn't it the alpha?
It is.
Who it all starts and stops with that individual?
It is, but he's not the owner. And he's not the general manager, and he's not the coach. And I think you have to set a tone. And if you look at organizations like the Milwaukee Bucks, we're extremely patient, and they made really smart free agency moves to put pieces around Giannis that helped them be successful. And they were patient with the coach. If you look at Miami, they're every single year. They don't fire their coach. They tweak and they add pieces and they develop young players. The Warriors are one of the best examples of drafting and developing players. We only think about the top of their organization. I can give you example after example after example.
Can you do anything with bad kids, though? Because I look at them as bad kids.
This is my point. This should be a lesson, not just to the Brooklyn Nets, but to fans and media. When you put a group of talent together, it's great. It's exciting. It's headlines. It's when they're playing well, it's thrilling. But if you do that, you've got to put the structure around in an organization. Like, to me, I like winners who are consistent, who do the right thing, and it's kind of boring, it's kind of nerdy, you know? But you're quiet, and you do the work, and they win year after year after year. And in this society where there's constant media attention, you've got to be that if you want to win consistently, and the Brooklyn Nets are not that.
Shady, let me go to a point you made, and this might be the most fascinating point. You talked about Phil Jackson and Michael Jordan. Yeah. We all watched the Last Dance documentary. What was most fascinating to me, MJ had to buy in. Viewer, remember, MJ averaged 37 points a game, what I believe would have been his third year in the league. Second year, he gets hurt. First year, he balled. Third year's 37 points per game. But Phil Jackson showed up and said, hey, big dog, that's cute, but if you want to win, you're going to have to buy into this team thing. Michael Jordan, greatest player, arguably or inarguably of all time. I don't know who Kevin Durant and or Kyrie Irving are buying into. It's a new culture. It's a new day. It's a new age. Keep in mind, Michael Jordan had not won anything collectively before Phil Jackson showed up. Kyrie has won a chip. Kevin Durant has won chips. Is there a coach, and we will get to the coach that they have moved on with, but if players don't want to buy in and you've been a player at an extremely high level, if a player doesn't want to buy in, is there anything a coach can do?
I don't think so, no. You talked about, like, the leader, the alpha. KD's that alpha. But we seen KD, when he went to the Warriors, he bought into that scheme, that system. So he can be coachable. He can be in a franchise where, okay, I could dictate what's going on here to be like a team. He has that in him. You just got to find the right coach. And I talked about it was Mark Jackson. He really built that Warriors, like, foundation, that team. Now, Steve Kerr did a great job of, like, you know, making it bigger, elevating it, but I think a coach like that, I always wonder why he didn't get another job opportunity, because he's lights out as a coach.
Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak, and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.